Welcome to Campfire Wisdom. Grab a seat around the fire and tell us your story.
We are in my garage right now. I'm having to adapt a little bit, so I've got my mother-in-law staying with us in our very tiny house, and it's the midst of summer and like multiple birthday weekends and all that kind of stuff. So currently, I got G-Ma chilling inside watching a movie, and backyard just a little bit too much sun. So I was like, you know what? Let me use the carport here. So let's talk a little bit about what we did on day 3. So day 3, we started at the Harriet Beecher Stowe House. And for those of you who may not be aware, Harriet Beecher Stowe is the woman who wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin. And of course, that book would transform the way that people viewed enslavement, right? Because for a lot of people in the United States, enslavement was always kind of positioned as, oh, look at, we're helping these people from Africa. We're helping them not be savages, right? It's that old thing like the white man's burden, right? Where, oh, it's the white man's job to like settle these savages and bring them organization and take them out of their savagery and bring them religion and all kinds of different stuff, right? I know that's more of an imperialistic side of things, but from a historical perspective, that's kind of part of that justification, right? So the house that we visited was the house where Harriet Beecher Stowe, she grew up there, she was married, and then she would have been part of some of these early abolitionist arguments, conversations. I don't know if at that point she's like, oh, I'm going to write a book someday, but it definitely influenced her and would obviously influence her in the years to come. One of the really cool things about that house is they had this tiny little kitchen that was like what, like a old stove. And I was thinking, I'm like, how would people even cook with those tiny things? It was kind of cool. And one of the rooms was converted to like a tavern room. So you could imagine like people sitting in there throwing back some beers. Really cool layout overall. I really liked that room. After that, we went to the Freedom Center. We walked up and we were outside of the exhibit that was on enslavement. And Kenny started to speak to us and telling us some stories. And one of which was really interesting. It was basically a conversation that was had with Frederick Douglass about being unfit to be a slave.
And this is an important nuanced point in the way that the story is not often told, is that he asked her to teach him. And I consider that his first moment of self-liberation. And so out of the kindness of her heart, she begins to teach young Frederick Bailey his ABCs. And that was all he needed, was that little spark of light into his mental darkness, into that mental bondage. And the lessons continued for a little while until his enslaver, Hugh Auld, found out about him. And when he found out about the lessons, he got angry. And he looked at his wife and he looked at young Frederick and he said, and I want y'all to listen to this, he said, you cannot teach a slave how to read and write, because if you do, it will unfit him to be a slave. Did you all hear that message? It will unfit him to be a slave. He'll be running away with himself. And so Frederick looked at him and he thought, if you don't want me to have this, I'm going to do everything in my power to gain it. And he understood right then and there that knowledge is power. We hear that today for our students. Education equals freedom. Education equals liberation. Education equals emancipation. And so he would teach himself to read and write.
Frederick Douglass sought education, right? And he sought knowledge, and he wanted to reach out and take it for himself, right? It wasn't like it was offered to him. He was like, I want to be educated. I want to. As we were in that room, keep in mind, there's a bunch of us, right? We're all listening on our headsets. And people start walking by. Well, as Kenny is talking more and more about Booker T. Washington and Frederick Douglass are my ancestors, people's like ears perk up. And this throng of people just started to listen to him. And everyone, so it was our whole group, but it was all these people along the sides of the hallway because we were kind of gathered together in the middle. And we had left these little lanes so people could walk through, but they all started to stop. And it was just a cool moment because he was telling, just being the great storyteller that he was, laying it down, and more people were getting involved. And it was just like this experience. It was like I was part of something really big and special. And I know the people that stopped and listened and kind of understood, oh my God, this gentleman his ancestor is both Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington. That's huge, right? So that was a really cool moment. Within the Freedom Center, there was also this building. So imagine it's this huge building, right? And then there's this huge wooden building, obviously restored, inside of like this main lobby area. And it turns out that it's a slave pen, right?
You see how hard it was? Being out there in the summer with all this humidity and everything else and being locked up in this space, even if there was ventilation coming from those windows, this was a crazy space to be in. And so this space was found, and then there began this interesting political problem. The people of Mason County, Buddy, Goldstein, Jerry Gore, y'all get where I'm coming from? Said, this is in our space. What are we going to do? So they began to put their sights on this and said, this is what we want. So Mason County said, we want this to be the center of people coming to us. But then the big corporate said, we want it. So Miss Cheryl Brown began to push against it. Her, Buddy, Jerry Gore started pushing against it. When I say push against it, writing editorials, and we as Footsteps for Freedom would go into the space and we'd be in the protest space. You know what I mean? Like, we're against this. And then, it happened. They took it, they brought it here, they put it in this place, and they had the grand opening. And Miss Brown was not gonna come here, y'all. We were on the trip, we were on the bus. She was like, I ain't doing it. So remember yesterday we were at the John Rankin house? Yeah. Remember there was a big picture on the left of a black gentleman with a bunch of freckles. Bunch of freckles, you guys probably saw on the left side. That's Carl Westmoreland. He became the first president of this space. He then finds out she's here and comes down to greet her and walks her around. And then he said this, Miss Brown, this never would have happened in this way without you. Not just this, but the whole museum. He said, your push to make sure it was authentic allowed me as the employee, when you're an executive director, you're still just the board has to say about who you are and what they do. But that outside pressure allowed me to do what I wanted to do. And she said then, Daniel, and this is a big thing for a person like Miss Brown, who's a bulldog, who just I was wrong.
So then we went to the Perkins Stone Mansion. Colonel Simon Perkins, this is his house, he was a business partner with John Brown, okay? Now, we all know John Brown from Harper's Ferry, right? Obviously, his rebellion got squashed pretty quickly. He didn't get backed up the way he should have been or could have been. Who knows? There's a lot of things that happened at that time. But prior to Harper's Ferry, John Brown, being a staunch abolitionist, was basically running a stop along the Underground Railroad out of this area, right? The Perkins Stone Mansion was on this hill, and they called it Mutton Hill because of all the sheep that were there. So John Brown was in business with Simon Perkins, and they had a sheep business. John Brown, besides being a staunch abolitionist, he was also a shepherd and a really good wool grader. He could make sure that you were going to get top dollar for the wool, or at least assess the value of wool if you were going to try to buy some. So that was one of his skills. The Perkins Stone Mansion was on this lot, right? And diagonally from it was where the John Brown house was. The reason why Mutton Hill was such a great location for the Underground Railroad is there were a lot of people coming in and out, right? People picking up wool, dropping it off. Shepherds coming and going. So it was really easy for people to move in and out, which made it really easy for freedom seekers to come in and come out as well. Colonel Perkins really didn't get involved with that. In fact, his wife was kind of against it, more so than Perkins was, but obviously they never interfered with what John Brown was trying to do out of his home. While we were there, they did a little sheep demo for us, so it kind of showed us how the sheepdogs would gather the sheep, which was kind of cool.
Right, cooler.
So we did Campfire. She's gonna have maybe doesn't understand now. They're all going to tell him here.
So after we left Mutton Hill, we went to House 350. It's almost like a restaurant, like a gathering place, an employment facility, all created and funded by LeBron James. I didn't realize this, but years ago he had made a promise to people in Akron where he lives that he was going to help out and take care of them. And this facility was like employing local people, giving people an opportunity to like really help each other within the community. You can see it was providing jobs, providing like safe place for people to exist if they're experiencing homelessness, food scarcity, all that kind of stuff. And I was just blown away. As we're going around the whole place, right, we got this tour from the manager. His name was Peanut. And I guess everybody there has a nickname. On one of the shelves was a book. And it was volume 1 of the student handbook from the Southwestern Book Company. And the reason why that resonated with me is when I was in college, I sold books door to door, right? This is like 1997. I sold books door to door, and I was selling the Southwestern Student Handbook, the 2-volume study guide. So volume 1 was sitting there on the shelf, and I took a picture of it and sent it to my buddy. I'm like, you're not gonna believe what's here. So I didn't take it down, even though I really kind of wanted to go through it because it was kind of like curated like displays, but man, that was cool. So after House 350, we went to the Sojourner Truth Plaza. She was a sharp lady, and it's funny, the way that that speech, Ain't I a Woman, was structured was like very powerful. Like, I don't know if, obviously it was not just given on a whim. She probably constructed the speech, but the, I don't know, the way that it was communicated. And then I've since done some research and seen it performed. Like, I know it's worthy of being performed. That tells you how good the speech was, right? The plaza itself was located like very close to where she would have given that speech. And I think they really did her justice. Like, the statue looks amazing. The whole plaza itself is great. And that was a really nice moment. Just the sun was setting. We're sitting there in this plaza and we're kind of soaking up this day. And again, felt like day 2 had so much like information to digest, and just like not only intellectual things, but just like very spiritual, very like psychological things that we were thinking about, like, oh, going up that hill, the struggle of like, oh, going up Rankin's Hill, people like sticking their necks out and helping people escape, that like adding another day onto it is just like boom, boom, boom. I'm not complaining in any way. I'm just obviously realizing the importance of reflecting on it here and talking about it. Well, that's going to wrap us up for day 3. We still got more days to come, right? So stick around. And until next time, I hope you get a chance to get outside and wake up beneath the stars.
Oh, it's only
Campfire Wisdom is brought to you from the hills of Rancho Cucamonga. We'd like to thank the men and women that protect our national parks and forests. You make this journey possible. Theme music by Sean Cromwell.